If you grill it, he will come.
Hey.
Is this heaven?
Nope. It's fairway.
A fuel choice that even rivals can agree on? Now that's worth the hype. Cheaper, cleaner, and homegrown. Pump it up with unleaded 88.
It's Cyclone Sunday with Ben Bruns. Breaking everything down from the Channel Seed Studios. This is Iowa Everywhere.
What is up? Cyclone Sunday, Cyhawk edition. Ben, before we get into things, I need to tell you something. I had a dream last night. It was a cyclone state. I woke up this morning, and it was still a cyclone state. Brunsy, how we doing today?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Yeah, I had sort of pushed that idea, right, of bragging rights for a year out of my brain completely, especially, and I didn't have great feelings coming into this game, just based on how the Iowa State defense played last week, and the injuries and all that stuff. And, then the first half happens and you're just like, man, and I've played in that building. I started 2 games there, one at center, another at guard. It's so hard to hear and function and so I empathize with what Hufford and that group up front were dealing with in the first half. But we also didn't execute, right? And, you can't go anywhere if you don't execute. And Iowa State ran the ball, I thought, really well yesterday. People are going to say, I don't know about that. But, the top 2 running backs, there were holes there. And at times we missed holes. We could have run the ball more effectively than we did in that game. And yet we didn't. To imagine all these things that were mistakes that Iowa State made and somehow to come out with a Cyhawk victory. And we talked about it on this program a week ago, didn't we? Like,
said 10-0. Don't get down by 10.
and more committed longer, right? That's the team that wins this game, is who's more committed longer. And clearly that was a drumbeat that Matt had with his team for the week. And guess what, man? Jalen Knoll double move gets the impossible to happen down the sideline late in that game. And, you have to have so many things go right in order to win in that situation. Get the ball back with 38 seconds left. What were we on, the 21?
Something like that, yeah.
No timeouts. And that 10-yard out to start the things like perfect. And then we throw it to Bramer for like a 2-yard gain and the clock's running. And I'm like, what? And on third down, the Hawks let Knoll hit that double move. I shouldn't say let. So there is nothing easy about pass protection when the defense knows it's a pass. That series that Iowa State, when there was 3 minutes left, Iowa State gets the ball. We should have run it on second down. Like that I don't like. First down was a good play. Second down, it's a run box all day. You have timeouts. Like, you don't have to try and throw it down the field. But on third down, the Hawks know it's a pass, right? It's 3rd and 10.
Mm-hmm.
This might be your last possession. And every single snap that those guys took on the last drive of the game, Iowa knows that that we're throwing it. And as an offensive lineman, those guys across from you are more athletic than you. They just are. That is just the rule of the world.
Yep.
And so when it comes to when they have to defend both run and pass, you get the advantage of knowing where the ball's going. And so you get that split second where you get a chance to leverage in the right spot. When you're throwing the football, it's like these guys that play arena football and play offensive line, you're just going to get beat on for like the entire game, right? Like that's it. I mean, those guys, hats off to them, because you're throwing the ball all the time and it's pass rush, pass rush, pass rush. And that's what was happening on that last drive. And Iowa State's offensive line held up against, full-on pass rush. Iowa didn't bring a lot of pressure. They spied a little bit, but, they thought they'd get home with 4. They couldn't. And then Rocco throws that dime down the sideline, and Jalen's got the jets and the double move opened it. And Kyle Conradi comes in and does something that, coach and team have seen, but we haven't, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And to be from Dubuque and, I grew up in Northeast Iowa.
We both did. Shout out the North
right.
Iowa Cedar League.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what that's like, right? Like it's
no, I get it.
Yeah, it's there's that much more pressure, right? Ferentz doesn't take a timeout to ice him. In hindsight, it was kind of funny listening to Conradi talk about the thing after the game. Is like, I didn't really have time to think about it. I just went out and did it.
Yeah.
Right. But I love the swagger. Like, every interview I've seen with that kid, it's like, no, I got this, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is what I do.
That's like the one position you need that the most at. I mean, 90% of kicking is just all right here. Mm-hmm. Talk me through a little bit. Iowa State goes into the half down 13-0. Yeah. You have a drive at the end of the first half that they kind of gain some momentum, but you miss field goal, so you don't get any points out of it.
Yep.
What are the conversations in the locker room being like, we can still win this?
Well, the first thing is, how was it not 21-0?
Yes.
I just think combination of play calling and execution on Iowa's side, and great defense from Iowa State. We were so frustrated with Iowa State's run fits last week. And we talked about it on this program. With the exception of the big runs that Iowa had. And most of those big runs, there were 2 formulas that Iowa had for those big runs. First one was they're running like some people call it an outside zone. I don't, because it's not the techniques of an outside zone. You're trying to reach harder than how I think Iowa plays it. Iowa's okay if people run to the sideline. They'll run back up underneath it. They don't mind that. So to me, it's not really an outside zone. It's like an off tackle zone. And so it's a wider track. And if that 4 technique comes down inside, when you run a 3-3 look, almost always you're lined up directly over the center with the nose guard, and then directly over the tackles with the defensive tackles. So that's called the 4 technique. And if that 4 technique chooses a side and the tackle blocks him, one-on-one, you got problems, right? And so several times in the early part of the game and on the touchdown drive that Iowa had in the second half, Iowa State's 4 technique bit inside and crashed enough that all of a sudden it was an easy wash down. The guard climbs to the next level, blocks the linebacker. Tight end, is out in space hunting there because there's no defensive end, right? So you're trying to set the edge with a linebacker. And there's nobody home once you beat that 4 technique that can fit fast enough. Now the pressure's on the safety or the backside corner in a couple of cases. And it's like, it was a recipe for disaster in the first half, especially that our guys kept jumping inside. When you play that straight or you play a little bit of outside leverage, now it forces the play to slow down, and it forces the running back as he presses to that outside edge. He's got to try and decide, do I keep it outside for a lesser gain, or do I cut it back? And maybe that's where my bigger play is. But now, because the 4 technique has held that position for longer, there's time for the backside pursuit to get there. So that's the one run play that Iowa really gashed Iowa State on. And they got, 4 or 5 big plays in the game from it. The other one was when they came out in a bunch of tight ends and lined up in sort of an even look across the front, a balanced look. And they ran back to the weak side based on how Iowa State had lined up. And there you just have a huge numbers disadvantage, right? Especially with your personnel being lighter. And that's the other play that Iowa popped a big play on. But in those goal line situations in the first part of the game, Iowa State fit so well and penetrated so well from the defensive line spot.
Dom Orange.
Dude.
Set the tone, big fella.
Well, and the freshman defensive end was phenomenal too. Brazina.
Mm-hmm.
He was playing linebacker and getting his hand down on the ground some too. I was damn that. I mean, he made plays in that game.
First career game in Kinnick Stadium, unbelievable.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a little workout going later, so I'm on the Chris Williams program.
I think I know the answer here, but there was a shift in momentum, I think, in the second half.
For sure. When you stand up and you make those goal line stands, now all of a sudden at least you're within striking distance.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And Iowa started to get comfortable a little bit. I think I can't remember if it was Gilbert or Perkins had kind of shanked a punt. Iowa had ball, and I was on the Iowa State 45 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
McNamara throws a pick. That's when the game flipped.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny listening to Hassel talk about, the game, right? He said that was the play that changed it all. I think that was a huge play because if Iowa goes in and scores there, but they're being super aggressive with the play calling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't throw that if you're not trying to figure out a way to put Iowa State away.
Right.
I've seen Iowa State in this game before rolling Iowa in the first half and not scoring points, right? Settling for field goals, and all of a sudden you're up 7, you're up 6, right? Or you should be, it should be a 2 or 3 score kind of deal. You should at least have a 10-point lead, much less, something more than that. And guess what happens, right? Second half, Iowa comes back and wins. Momentum, as you talk about, is a huge thing. And especially, as long as we avoided the avalanche at the beginning of the game, which felt like it was coming, didn't it, dude?
Yes, absolutely.
Like, I have no idea how it's just 13-0, and it feels like 100-0.
Right.
But, you come out and that answer from Jalen and Rocco after Iowa scored, right? What a great scoring drive from Iowa to come back,
mm-hmm.
In the second half and punch one in after Iowa State had scored. That's big time execution and big time play by those guys. But for Iowa State to come around and in one play, the next play and score again, like that's why I think the pick wasn't necessarily the play that changed everything. And I wasn't in the stadium, right? But I can tell you, like, Iowa State didn't have the pressure of the game on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe at the beginning they did, right? And they didn't handle it very well. But as the game went on, the pressure was squarely on the Hawkeyes' shoulders. And I actually turned to my family as we were sort of creeping back into this thing, and I was like, we got to make sure we don't actually take the lead too early. Because, that changes Ferentz's mindset. It changes how they approach things, and they do become more aggressive if they're behind, especially late. They don't mind that, right? They think they can put together a drive to put you out late in the game, and that's the way they play. And I don't hate that. It's been pretty successful.
Yeah.
But they sure didn't think that, Iowa State was going to hit a 54-yard field goal with 9 seconds to go. So
just as everyone drew it up.
Right.
I want to talk about one thing quick. At the end of the game, Iowa State punted with a little over 3 minutes left. It reminded me a little bit of 2020 Texas when Iowa State had timeouts left. They punt the ball, and everyone was like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
Why would you do this? There's no way Iowa State wins now."
Yeah.
And the same thing ends up happening.
Well, and how about the fact that Iowa got a first down in that scenario? It's
right.
like,
yeah.
Usually one first down is the end of that for you, right? It puts you too far back. It puts you, too disadvantaged. I don't like the second down call. Like, you got to get yards, right? You got to, if you pick up a first down. But the idea that Iowa State can punt that ball and still come back and win, faith and trust in the defense. And that first down run that Iowa had, it was stuffed. I mean, stuffed. Yeah. And what a great play by the tailback to just keep.
Yeah, Caleb Johnson is.
He is a stud.
He's legit,
right? He is a stud. Like, he's an NFL guy, and it's not close, right? I mean, he's got everything you want, and a whole bunch of other guys that are good players on that Iowa offense keep driving forward, and now all of a sudden you're in rough shape. If you get him tackled for a loss there, it's easy. Take the timeout. McNamara is not scary. And I don't, at least that's how I was feeling. How were you feeling?
He throws off his back foot way too much for me to be scared. I mean, he leaves it out to dry. He had one touchdown. I think it was in the fourth quarter. He left it short and almost got picked off, but
yeah.
I don't remember who the receiver was.
Because I haven't seen him play a ton. But, my takeaway was I know Iowa has high expectations. I don't, based on what I saw, I don't know how they get where they want to get without more production in that spot. But, that's been the story for years now, hasn't it? I mean, so anyway, you're not worried necessarily about if you get to third down in that situation and Iowa, chooses to throw it for some reason, you feel pretty confident. But after that first down play where they got 6.5, 7 yards with Johnson's second effort, it's like, damn, now we're screwed, right? And, I tweeted too many mistakes. It just is what it is, right? Had opportunities to win. Well, got one more opportunity to win. And Iowa was the one who made the mistake, right? And I think outside of Penn State and Ohio State, I think Jalen Knoll, I think it was the best game of his career, and he's had a good career. But I think what he did in that game was the best I'd ever seen him play in terms of just that dynamic nature of forcing a defense to have to try and respond to you and make them do something different than what they want to do. And Rocco, stay in the course. I mean, the coaches stay in the course. There were some not good plays in the first half of the game, for a lot of guys. And man, to stay committed longer, to stay focused longer. That's how you have nice things, right?
Right.
And it just sets up so much more this season. And I'll never forget Rocco's quote about, we got to really get ready for this off week. It's like, I love it. Like,
yeah, that bye week could not come at a more perfect time either.
Yeah, because you're going to have a game that you need to get better in, right? In a couple weeks, you need to get better, and you've got a real opportunity to do that and then get into league play. And but you know, to try and turn around and do that, so many teams suffer from the hangover. And now Iowa State will be able to enjoy this and do the work that it takes and come back and prepare and play better and position themselves. You know, a bye week this early in the season seems sort of odd, but it's a long season these days, right? I mean, it's a whole bunch of games, and yeah.
So tell me about when you, in your time at Iowa State, when you beat Iowa, does that kind of change your perspective on the season? Like, you know, we got over the hump, we got the in-state rival. Now let's go win, you know, 6, 7, 8 more games.
Yeah, you know, we were in such a different place then. I think it's a little bit hard for me to comment in terms of how that translates into the modern era, if you will. But you know, we were always trying to climb out of a hole of like not having winning seasons, and we started beating Iowa in '98, and didn't have a winning season until 2000. And then had a bunch of them under Coach Mack. And you want to, like, it was on our list of things we needed to do for the year, right? Beat your rival. But it doesn't do anything in terms of helping you win the next game. You just have to go prepare and win the next game. And you know, you can't win the next game on the next play. You can only win the next play on the next play. And I think there's a lot more clarity, like mental clarity in that philosophy that has come to athletes now than there was when I played. You know, when I played, it felt like this huge impossible mission, right, that we had to go do together. And, you know, could we somehow overcome all of this at once, you know, and you carried that around every day. I feel like coaches and players do a better job of compartmentalizing today, that what I have to focus on is what I need to do to win today. And then what I'm focused on in the next moment is what's it take to win this play. And I think that's what Matt's done with this team. And, you know, people get tired of hearing about the process and, you know, the detail, and he gets crap on social media about, you know, winning in the margins, and we don't do that. And you know, it's like the mentality is the right mentality. The mentality is the right way to approach it. You can't approach it any other way. And you have to talk about it, and you have to continue to just drive into it. And I think one of the things that made Matt Campbell really happy about this game yesterday was that his kids and his coaches just kept doing that, right? What can you control? Well, I can control the next play. All right. Well, we're in a situation where we got to punt it. Well, let's punt it. What can we do now? Well, let's go win that next down, right? And it got a first down. Oh man, okay. Well, we can't let them get another one, right? You know, and so I think I'm really proud of where this program is, that the Iowa game hasn't mattered as much in the Campbell era, because what's mattered is having a chance to compete for a league title.
Right.
You know, but it's clear, you know, and for a while, I think we sort of were like, you know, that's our world. That's what we're focused. Like I think everybody around the program gets how important this thing is, just from, you know, your own, the margins for programs like Iowa State and Iowa are so much different now in this NIL era, that you have to have games like the one that we just had in order to continue to position yourself for those little differentiators. Because if you don't beat your rival, and it's a coin flip on a kid who's going to decide to go to either school, whether he's a freshman or a junior college or a transfer. Because now you're recruiting everybody all the time. You're recruiting your own guys all the time. Like, that's a program stabilizer inside of Iowa State for your own kids that you want to try and continue to recruit and be in the program, to experience the joy of winning on that field. That's what that game does for you in today's age. You still got a long way to go, right, to beat all these teams in the Big 12 and come out with a title. But now, like, and there's a reinforcement now of, look what we did in Iowa City. We can do that anywhere, right? That's one of the toughest places. That is the hardest place Iowa State will play all year. Just bottom line. So, to sneak one out down there is pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's a good spot to kind of put a cap on this thing, unless you got anything else.
No, it's good. Appreciate it. Thanks to everybody for watching us. And man, what a day. I saw the video of Brock Purdy celebrating after we hit the field goal. I'm really glad there was no video of me and my family. My in-laws were over, and we were all like jumping around, running around. I did a Brandy Chastain, T-shirt was thrown across the room. I just, like, it was sort of almost an out-of-body experience as a fan, right? And I had the experience of walking out of Kinnick Stadium with my teammates and a trophy. And it's something that to this day, I just am so grateful for. And for those guys to have the chance to do that on Saturday, it means a lot, right? And it means a lot for all the guys who played before and had success in this game. And then, Iowa State has struggled for a period of time in this game. Hasn't felt like it. Hasn't felt like that's what the numbers should be, but it is. And man, that was one for the ages yesterday, dude.
Yes.
That was one for the ages.
Absolutely. All right. This has been Cyclone Sunday. Ben Bruns, Aiden Wyatt. Shout out to Iowa Corn for all of their sponsorship throughout the month of September here at Iowa Everywhere. Shout out to Fairway as well. I know I'm spending my first NFL Sunday grilling and watching football. Excited to do that today with some Fairway meat. All right. Cyclone Sunday here in the Channel Seed Studios. See you 2 weeks on the Iowa Everywhere Network.